All right, 3 things happened last week. Not necessarily good things. One sort might be good. 2 things not good. First of all, the Canadian GDP, gross domestic product numbers came in. Terrible. But more importantly, it's tiny. Like it's when you're talking about like 10 basis points of growth. I mean, it's just awful. But what it does is like this consistent fact of per capita GDP is negative. It's like it's going to be negative forever at this rate. It's going to be negative for years, per capita GDP, because we bring people into Canada. We have. Looks like that's coming to an end soon, supposedly. That's coming to it. But hold on. If you bring tons of people in, just having the people here pushes the gross domestic product up. They have to buy stuff. They have to get transportation. They have to eat. They need a roof over their head. They probably find some sort of a job. Some of them have great jobs, but they have some sort of job going on, part-time, full-time, and that all creates gross domestic product. So that's fine, except that doesn't help individual humans, right? That's a country's GDP. Individual GDP is when you start to divide it out by the number of bodies in the country, and then we just look awful. Like we're going on to like quarter after quarter after quarter of negative GDP on an individual basis, which is awful. Next crazy truth came out that based on the most careful review of job creation in Canada for the last more than a year, it would appear that all the job creation numbers are directly correlated to temporary workers, like employers using basically bullshit reporting or exaggerated reporting. Some truthful. Like if you can't find enough data stack people to fill your jobs, you may need to get a temporary worker from a country where they graduate a lot of engineers. But the crazy part is when you look at the number of temporary foreign worker jobs created, it's in theory, like, you know, you can't really just match this up one-on-one, but the raw numbers would indicate that all the new job creation is temporary workers. Like, sweet Christ on a cracker. I mean, that is just fucked up. So the tiny glimmer of good news is that in the month of October, it would appear the unit numbers of house sales have picked up in Ontario and British Columbia. Condo towers in 416 still a desperate problem, and that's not going to resolve itself easily in any way. But it's picked up a bit. So what does it all mean to us? Well, it means that if mortgage rates come down, which the Bank of Canada keeps dropping, then eventually people say, you know, this rate has reached a point where I think I can afford to buy now. I mean, I'd like to buy because there's always a need for buyers and sellers. Because look, people die, sadly. We've talked about this before. People get divorced. Marriages break up. Houses need to sell. People die. Houses need to sell. Houses need to be bought. Job change. Okay, lost a job. Guess I better sell my house. Job transfer. Guess I better buy a house because my company's helping me with that move. I mean, there's just reasons why people have to buy and sell houses. It's inescapable. It just is what it is. Okay. Now, when you suppress it, we have the lowest sales of homes, unit sales of homes in Ontario for like 20 years, even though there's 3 million more people here. And that just eventually starts to break through. And why do we have so few? Mortgage rates were too high and prices in Ontario are almost exclusively batshit crazy. So that slows everything down. But now that there's a few rates at 399, 409, 429, there's a bit more action. So we're going to see a bit of an uptick there. Now, this highly emphasizes that the economy is headed for the crapper. Like we can't have this terrible GDP, this horrible GDP per capita is awful. And it looks like all the jobs are just sucked up by companies trying to use low-cost temporary foreign workers, which is definitely going to be drastically changed by the government. Whether it's this government or the next government, doesn't matter. Change is on the way. So it's now a race between deteriorating economic conditions in Canada and lower mortgage rates. Because if the economy is faltering, that's more pressure on the Bank of Canada to, everybody say, oh no, the dollar, Canadian dollar versus US going into hell in a handbasket. Okay, but there's still going to be more cuts from the Bank of Canada. There's going to be type of cut in December. It's either going to be big or small. Otherwise, 50 or 25. There's going to be more cuts next year. So rates will eventually come down. I know. Everybody says, oh, no, you're wrong. Fixed rates are going up. Are they really? They didn't go up that much, a tiny bit versus the bond yield. And just be patient. Folks, be patient. Bond yields will come down again. They will. It takes time, but eventually we will have a 5-year fixed with a 3 in front of it. Not low threes. Maybe it's 3.89, 3.99, but we'll have more of it. So what is the most important takeaway from all this? The most important takeaway is the race between the bad economy getting worse and the continuation of these lower rates. What is the race between these two conflicting factors? One of them good for the real estate business, and the economic downturn bad. Nobody wants to buy a house when they're worried about their employment, or worried about their cutting back hours, or worried about no overtime or no bonus. So that's the key. Because ask yourself this question. Everybody out there, ask yourself this question, whether you're in banking or business or just working for wages or whatever kind of job you have. Ask yourself this. What is suddenly going to come around and revitalize and put a positive shock into the Canadian economy that's going to improve the Canadian economy? What is it? As far as I'm concerned, the answer is, in the near term, nothing. So, there we go.